I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times, and it is time for a game. Coming off of my quick trip to GAC, I was thinking about banks, and I came up with 5 trivia questions focused on the absurdity of just how different banks are to credit unions. All right, Natasha, producer Zach, are you two interested in this game?
I feel like,
Interested?
I
No.
need to
Ready?
be both
Yes.
interested and
No,
ready.
you don't. But listen, it's absurd. What I'm going to do, I'm going to
Okay.
ask the question. These are all
Multiple.
they're a mix of multiple choice, true, false. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And you two can just kind of guess.
Okay.
And that is it. Okay, here we go. Okay. I'm calling this bank size trivia. Question 1. What is the asset size of the largest bank in the United States? Which is JP Morgan Chase.
Okay.
A, 900 billion, B, 2 trillion, C, over 3 trillion. What do you guys think?
So based on the parameters you set, I'm going to say true.
What?
Well, you said it was true or false.
No, this is a multiple choice.
We'll have to rewind the tape because I'm pretty sure you said it was true or false questions.
I said they were a mix
It's a mix, yeah.
See, this is why I did bad in
Zach is-
school.
yeah.
I was not listening. I'll go with C. I'll go with the biggest number.
Okay, great. All right, now we're on the same page.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna go with the second biggest. The one.
B,
What was it? B. The
2
1
trillion?
2 trillion. Yeah.
2 trillion. The answer is C, over 3 trillion
What?
in assets.
Wow. Okay, that's
That's
crazy. I
crazy.
didn't even know that.
Okay,
That's a
now,
lot of-
to be crystal clear, Zach, this next question is a true or false question. Okay.
That, and I just say that really is a reminder of how small credit unions are when you hear that.
100%. So, one of the largest U.S. banks that we just talked about holds more assets than the entire U.S. credit union industry combined. True or false?
I'm going to go with C, over 9 trillion.
God dang it, Brett. Okay.
True.
Natasha.
I think it's true, right?
It's both. It depends when you ask because it fluctuates a little.
Oh.
The U.S. credit union system has roughly 2.4 trillion in assets, while we just discussed JP Morgan Chase has over 3 trillion. But it does fluctuate a little bit here and there, so it's really close.
So it's a close call. Okay.
It's a very close call, which is, again, crazy. Okay, multiple choice here. Question 3. How many branches does Bank of America operate across the United States? A, about 1,000. B, about 3,800. C, about 7,000.
I'm going to go with B.
B, 3,800.
I'm going to go with C.
About 7,000. The answer is B.
Oh.
About 3,800 branches. And that is way down. I mean, because they've been trimming.
Oh, yeah.
Their number of branches for the past decade, I think. I think they were around 7,000 at one point.
Yeah.
Which is really a lot. Okay, question number 4, also multiple choice. What is the approximate asset size of the largest credit union, Navy Federal? A, 60 billion. B, 180 billion. C, 600 billion.
I think it's B.
Okay.
I'll go with A.
60 billion. Now, I want to remind you really quick. The asset size of JP Morgan Chase was over 3 trillion. Okay.
Right.
The asset size of the largest credit union, Navy Federal, right now is roughly B, 180 billion.
Okay. Yay. So, I'm glad I knew that.
Yeah. Well, I figured you would. Okay.
When we interview the person from Navy Federal, don't let her hear how much I undersold him.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
She'll be so angry. Okay, last question. True or false? The 5 largest U.S. banks each individually hold more than 1 trillion in assets. Each of them.
Each hold more than 1 trillion?
Yes. Do you think so? True or false?
I mean, I feel like that has to be true.
Okay. What do you think, Natasha?
I don't know. I feel like it's either true or maybe it's close.
I bet it is either true or false.
I bet it is
I'm gonna
either
say
one of those.
false. Yeah, I'm gonna say it could be either one or the other. Yeah, I'm gonna go with false and see which one of us gets the final gold star.
The answer is true.
Wow. Okay, yeah, they are.
True. That's how huge this
That
banking
is
industry is.
huge. Yeah, it really puts things in perspective, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, well, good for them.
I know. And I was just, again, they talk about, the banking industry messages at GAC. And I was like, it just made me think, like, come on, they're so freaking huge.
Like, why? Yeah, it's like, why be so threatened?
I mean,
By
capitalism, I mean, you got to
Yeah.
grow. But
Yeah.
they run what, 92, 93% of the banking population, credit
Right.
unions have 7 or 8%. So anyway, that's how huge this whole industry is that credit unions aren't even involved with. Credit unions got a little slice, so good for them. We're doing fine. But
Okay.
banks are freaking huge. Hey, everybody. I'm glad you're here to hear us go off about this, about a topic you already know about. But anyway, we got other stuff coming up. Welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we are chatting with Chuck Fagan, president and CEO of Velera. Chuck, we love Chuck.
Yay.
I was fortunate to catch up with Senior Fagan during GAC, where we found a nice, quiet spot to talk. I'm kidding. We were in the middle of the expo hall and it was loud. Anyway, we had a really good discussion. We'll talk more about that in a bit. For stuff, we got to take a break from this week. What is this, Thursday we're recording? Check in with Natasha. Hey, Ann.
Hey, Em.
How you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Yeah.
Good.
That was a good, no, that intro, I was thinking that's very eye-opening about the sizes and just
I needed a reminder,
difference. Yeah, it's a good thing to keep in our heads,
It's nuts.
Yeah, it is really not. It is really wild.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I want to ask, what have you been watching lately?
Yeah, so one thing I watched quite a bit of, actually just this past weekend. So I spent the weekend with a good friend of mine, Steph, and she has a condo at the Oregon coast. And so we spent the weekend there. Weather was awful, so we were like inside most of the time.
Of course.
But we had been planning to do this for a while and sit down together and watch the final season of the Sex and the City spinoff and Just Like That.
And Just Like That, yeah.
So we made it. We still have 4 episodes left, so we didn't quite make it through the whole season in one weekend. So we're going to finish that at a later point. But yeah, I was watching that and yeah, it was a lot of fun. That's a show that I've, and those particular characters are ones that I've followed for so long. I feel like they're kind of for Gen X and millennial women, it's a very integral part of the culture, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been fun to follow it. And I guess this is it, which I think is appropriate because I think it's time for them to hang up their hats. Like, it is time.
Yeah.
I think this has gone on. Like, we don't need to follow them all the way to like the nursing home.
I haven't revisited that. I mean, legit, I was thinking, I think the last time I watched, and it was Sex and the City, but my oldest was, I don't know, 2, and he's 26 now, 27.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's how long I have not revisited any of that.
Okay. But did you actually watch like the original Sex and the City then? Like when
Hell yeah, at the
HBO?
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would make Cosmopolitans too.
Oh, I love it. I remember going, so then they came out with the movie, and this was...
I didn't see that either, yeah.
I remember going to a bar for Cosmopolitans, which with a few people.
You know what? They're pretty darn good,
Yeah.
They're not bad.
Anyway.
That's cool.
Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been watching. But so yeah, no spoilers from anyone, please, for how, because the big question is like, who is Carrie what's she gonna end up with?
Isn't that like the big question every season or whatever?
Is she gonna end up alone? I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. Well, Big's dead, so it's not him.
He sure is. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, well.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, what about you?
You know what? I don't know if I mentioned this. Have I mentioned that I am on this Twilight movie quest?
Oh, yeah. I think you mentioned it a couple days ago. Yeah, that's very
I don't
fascinating to me because that's another
I don't
fun
think I've mentioned it on
one.
here, but it
Yeah,
was one of those things. It was like, you know what? I need like a series
yeah.
to kind of watch that I've never watched before. I missed it back when it came out in the early 2000s or mid, it was around 2008 or so. So I'm 2 movies in, I think.
Okay, so that's the Twilight and New Moon?
And New
Or
Moon, yeah.
yep.
And I still am just like, how is this so popular? But whatever. It's a
Yeah.
pretty fun watch. And who's the dude? Who's the werewolf guy?
Taylor Lautner?
Tater. Yeah, that dude barely wears a shirt.
Jacob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like shirtless constantly, which I'm like, okay, I guess if I looked like him, sure. But I'm like, it's really cold where you are, but maybe they don't feel heat, cold, whatever. But it's a pretty fun watch. It's pretty
Okay.
silly.
So you're gonna go all the way
Oh,
through it
heck yeah. I'm
again,
going
all
to
the way
finish
through
the whole
Breaking
thing.
Dawn? Isn't it a part 1 and part 2 for the Breaking
Believe so,
Dawn?
yeah. There's
Yeah.
like 5 of them. So yeah, I'll get there. I'll let you know when
Okay.
I'm done.
Yeah, I don't think I made it all the way through to the final one because I think I just got bored with the whole thing by
They're
the time
all
it
on
was
HBO
out with
Max.
the
So,
okay.
and
Oh,
they're
well,
silly as hell. So,
and have you read the books at all?
oh my God, no. No,
Okay.
I'm not reading that.
I read them. I
Yeah.
think I read all of them. I still have them. To be honest with you, I am actually looking at them right now. I'm
Oh,
sitting next to a bookshelf, and I still have the 4 of them sitting there. They're
that's
nice little
funny.
keepsakes,
Oh, I'm sure. No, I
Mm.
aged out of, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
doing that.
I hate to
Oh,
pop in, but since
oh,
Natasha is saying
please,
she's looking at them, you
please
are in
do.
Oregon, right?
I currently am in Oregon, yes.
Okay, I just feel like we need to have the disclaimer that you're looking at the books at your parents' home, not at your adult.
That's true, yes.
That is
They
true.
did not make it with me to my new house in LA. I
Okay.
didn't, well, I didn't
Fair
have
enough.
a ton of room, but I didn't, I
Right.
was like, so they might make it there at some point, but they're
Okay.
still on the shelf. Yeah, they were the left behind group.
It's a pretty good silly time if you want to watch these movies. So,
Yeah, and if you're young, it can also be like serious. Like it can be like about, it kind of
yeah, I guess.
I
Yeah.
was I don't know how old was I when they came out. I guess I was still in my 20s. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was like, kind of this romance you can get wrapped up in, this
Yeah.
idea, this fantasy thing that you can think, oh, maybe I'll have
Yeah, of
something
course.
like that or whatever, like that vibe. But now, yeah, as
Yeah.
an adult now, it's like, what? Like,
Right.
but during that time, also just out here, that
Please.
was a big thing, this vampire, like kind of the sexy vampire. And do you
Heck yeah.
remember on Conan O'Brien when he did
Oh, I
he
do.
had like a character
Yeah.
that he kind of poked fun at that idea of
I
the
recall that.
pale, translucent skin,
Yeah.
brooding
Oh,
type
jeez.
of like a vampire guy.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. With that, let's go to one of our favorite brooders, Chuck Fagan. I'm just kidding, Chuck.
I don't know if that's
But I want to talk about our one-on-one, kind of tease out the interview I had with Velera's leader, Chuck Fagan. I want to say this about Chuck, total honesty here.
yeah.
He was an open book. And I asked ahead of time if there were topics he wanted to discuss. And he said, whatever I wanted to
Okay.
ask, he'll answer. So the discussion you're getting ready to hear, he knew nothing of what I was going to ask. And therefore,
Okay.
the whole interview was really a free-flowing kind of discussion that was so relaxing, and it just doesn't happen that often. I wanted to point that out. So thanks, Chuck. Big thing we hit head on really was the interchange law out of Illinois that Fagan is truly worried about, and he talks about it in detail. And I came up with the saying that I think you might enjoy in the interview. I'm not going to spoil it here, that he actually thought was pretty good. Anyway, he goes into detail about his concerns on that and how it's going to spread to a lot more states. Also, I find out how much movies played into his days growing up in Richmond, Virginia.
Huh.
I thought it was so interesting and how it's impacted how he experiences movies at home today. It was really funny.
Okay.
I know. So
Fun.
great, Chuck. Chat, Natasha, all of that is coming up next. Hey, everybody. I'm here with Chuck Fagan, the head of Velera. Chuck, we are big fans of yours at CU Times, and thanks for joining us here. It's been a very busy GAC. I know you haven't had a chance to eat lunch, so I'd like to get you fed, but I have a few questions for you. We're here at your booth right now. which I always enjoy this space. But I have a question for you concerning the interchange ruling that came down out of Illinois. I was having lunch with some of your people earlier, and I just hadn't thought about the weight of that decision on Velera. Can you kind of talk through about some of the things Velera is thinking about as it relates to the ruling? And not asking for answers, but what are you all thinking about right now?
Well, first off, Mike, thanks for all CU Times does for the industry.
It's of course
just a mainstay source of information, and really appreciate that. As far as the interchange goes, it's bad legislation is where I'll start.
Sure.
Not only bad for our credit union issuers, I think bad for the consumer in terms of experience, based on how we're going to have to ultimately adjust the technology to make it work. It's not an easy task to get there. So let's start on the legislation side. The fact that you would have a transaction that would be split up between the purchase itself and then tax and tip to exclude the interchange makes it a disjointed experience. One of the ways to potentially accomplish it is to split the transaction in two and have different merchant category codes, which again, two transactions is bad for the consumer. You know, the merchant may not have to pay the interchange, but still the point of sale is supposed to be a positive experience. You're making a purchase, you make the payment, and you get the merchandise or whatever you're buying. So we are trying, it's on appeal right now. So we're supporting the Illinois League, not only monetarily, but we're helping with some of our expertise in the card business. Supporting Visa, MasterCard efforts, supporting America's credit unions efforts. So doing all we can to try and push back. Albeit, it looks at this point inevitable that July 1st is when that goes into effect. There's a $1,000 penalty per transaction that doesn't work. What a lot of people aren't thinking about, yes, it impacts issuers in Illinois, but if a credit union in Virginia has a member that travels to Illinois, that same law and legislation applies to transactions done with a Virginia issued card in Illinois.
So we were just talking about this at lunch, and my mind was blown how ridiculously complicated this world has now become. And that's what really put my mind in the framework of, oh my gosh, what does Chuck Fagan think of this? Because you're one of those voices I truly trust listening to, and your organization comes out with wonderful data that we use. But what was your reaction, really, when it first came down?
A bit of shock, Mike. But if you think about where the original Durbin came from, Senator Durbin's from Illinois. He's now one of the lead sponsors of the Credit Card Competition Act.
He is.
People in Illinois state legislature picked up on that, and that's where it started. So first reaction was bad consumer experience. Second reaction was bad for the credit union issuers to have to not only lose out on a little interchange, but have to work with us to determine how best to put technology in place to accommodate it. So it's going to take Visa, MasterCard, our processing partners, and us all working together to beat a very aggressive timeline between now and July 1st.
And you don't necessarily feel optimistic about beating that timeline, or at least getting it stopped before then?
I'm not sure there's a choice. But
we're
it probably
beyond
doesn't,
that point.
It probably doesn't give us enough time to come out with the best scenario. It may have to be two transactions, which is just ugly for the consumer, ugly for the whole experience.
We don't have to use this line. That what I'm thinking of, it puts the POS in POS.
I think that's
if
well
we
said.
Understand what that means. Okay, let's. Anything else you want to say about that legislation or your efforts right now at Velera?
Well, I would just say that one piece of legislation is in Illinois, but there are many other states watching.
22, 25 others?
Yes. And then the Credit Card Competition Act is still alive here in Washington, D.C. So you've got multiple attack angles on interchange, and it's taken a lot to try and educate Congress about why interchange exists. It exists to invest in new technology. It exists that the issuer has to be responsible for fraud.
Yeah.
So there are good reasons why interchange is in place.
May I ask, and we don't have to dwell on this topic, but you continually open up some doors I just hadn't thought about, the education part. Is there a focus for Velera right now on educating your customers, your partners? I don't know who's educating who at this point, on this complicated issue, but are you taking some sort of lead on that front?
We have regular communications that come from me to our credit unions, so yes.
Okay.
But education at a whole different level is us supporting America's Credit Union, us supporting Visa as they do their work on Capitol Hill to educate, because they really don't understand the transaction flows and what all that means. So they're voting on some pretty critical legislation, and I don't know that they have all the facts to be able to make those decisions.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from that. But Chuck, I appreciate your thoughts on that right now, because again, it's so newsworthy, it's so top of mind in the industry that I would love to revisit this as we get closer. Okay, a few kind of broader questions about Velera. Over the next 5 years, who do you think kind of poses a greater competitive threat to credit unions? Is it megabanks, fintechs, or embedded finance players?
I mean, short answer is yes.
Okay.
But if I had to kind of choose which one, it would be more on the fintech side. The reason being is it's unregulated.
Are you sure? Yeah.
So they have the flexibility to do things that the traditional financial institution doesn't have the flexibility to do.
Okay.
I think we can combat the mega banks, better terms, better overall experience with the consumer.
Yeah.
We're never going to invest as much as Chase and some of the others in technology. But I think when the industry collaborates through a partner like Velera, then we can get pretty close. I think on the embedded side, that is definitely taking off and there's interest there. But I think the younger demographic, the Gen Zs, they really tend to align with the fintechs. So to have an unregulated competitor who has an attractive market, who sees them favorably, it gets quite interesting. I think Velera has a role. One of the great outcomes of us combining PSCU and Co-op together is we're touching half of the financial institutions in the US.
Yeah.
And the fintech community is seeing us as kind of a gateway into that community.
Yeah.
So we're working really closely with a lot of fintech players, and I think that's a real positive outcome there.
Can I tell you something? This is God's honest truth. You just said about PSU Co-op Solutions. Kind of forgot that those were two different things. I'm now used to your brand, so ta-da, congratulations.
Think that's a great win that you see it that way.
It's just funny to be reminded, oh yeah.
So we are 2 years, 2 months
you
in.
Are.
So
oh really, that's fun. 2 years, 2 months, okay. Anyway.
Not that we're counting.
No. Couple other things. Velera sees billions of transactions annually.
Yes.
How should credit unions be thinking differently about payments data, not just as reporting, but a strategic asset?
I mean, it's why Google, it's why all the tech companies want to be in payments, because of the data it represents on the consumer. So the transaction sets off of the transactions that occur with the credit unions, payment devices, is critical and important, but there's also rich data in the credit union's history on their checking accounts. You go in and you see PayPal transactions, that's opportunity to shift over to the credit union's payment devices. So credit unions that aren't paying attention to that data are missing. Velera has a whole consulting group that we work really closely with credit unions on analyzing that data and where the transactions come from. So I think you're hitting on something really, really important, that we see the data from billions of transactions, and as AI continues to take off, that data is what's going to bring the personalized experience that the credit unions are after with their members.
All right, you just mentioned AI, and that's my last question I wanted to ask you about. As AI reshapes service, fraud detection, personalization, what does operating leverage kind of look like for credit unions down the road in a few years? Credit unions are trying to figure this out. How are we going to leverage this? Do you have thoughts?
I absolutely do. I think right now, the whole branch experience, as you've seen over the last 10 years probably, has been changing. AI is going to change it even more because of the use of agents. Agents are going to be able to represent the credit union member into the credit union and conduct a lot of the banking that's done today. Think on the payment side. I could have an agent that understands my payment history around Valentine's Day and helps me decide and accesses my payment credentials to get my wife something for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So agents are going to be able to do for the consumer things that we've just traditionally done without thinking twice about, but the agent can make us so much more efficient. And then internally, AI is totally changing the way we do business. There may be some positions that AI takes over, but there are new positions popping up all the time. We have positions today pointed at stablecoin, pointed at blockchain, authentication. So these new areas that didn't exist 2 and 3 years ago are popping up because of the advancements in technology.
Yeah. Do you ever hear yourself and go, dang, I'm pretty smart?
Well, I'm always reminded by my kids and my wife that sometimes I am smart, but sometimes I got a lot of learning to do. So
we all do.
Yeah.
All right, Chuck, second part of this are all questions about you.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your hometown?
Richmond, Virginia.
Born and raised there?
Born and raised.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your high school name? What was the name of your high school?
Tucker High School.
Tucker?
J.R. Tucker.
J.R. Tucker?
Tucker Tigers.
The Tigers. Who was J.R. Tucker? Do you know?
J.R. Tucker was a guy back in the 1950s and early 60s that was involved in politics, civil rights, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And they named the high school after him.
Oh, good. So he was a good person.
Good person.
Okay, good. Whew.
Yeah. They didn't have to change the name of the high school.
Thank God. Okay, what was the first job you got as a kid or a teenager?
I worked in the movie theater as a ticket taker. In fact, as I was so fortunate to get a Luminary Award from CU Times earlier, you asked the last movie I watched, and we actually built a theater in our house, and I got to watch Moana with my grandkids. So we built the theater based on the memories of me working at the movie theater.
Oh, that's wait, what was the name of the movie theater?
The Ridge Cinemas.
The Ridge?
Ridge
Cinemas.
Yep.
In Richmond.
Yep.
Is it still there?
It is no longer there. It's now a Kroger grocery store.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. All right, you answered the last movie you watched. I want to ask you this. What was the first time you ever came to D.C.? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I went to a Catholic school in Richmond, and we came up here on a field trip, I think in the 6th grade, and we got to walk around, see the White House from a distance, and other famous monuments and stuff.
Do you remember what you were thinking then, or did it even click with you until later?
It was later, but pretty in awe. I mean, that was kind of the first time I ever went to a big city.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty intimidating.
That's cool. What do you think when you fly back in now?
Oh, boy. I think walking around last night, totally different from a year or two ago.
Yep.
DC is cleaner, safer. It was cold, but it was good walking around. And still the nostalgia of, the White House and government and so many things happening here, it hits you.
That's
definitely
cool.
does.
Chuck, it was great seeing you.
Mike, always a pleasure
sitting down with you and your team. I, again, appreciate all the work you guys are doing. So always great to see you, and I hope we get to talk again very soon.
We'll do it at Velera Live. I look forward to it.
Absolutely.